Dimensions are levels of spirituality that we bring with us on Earth, and our mission is to evolve and elevate ourselves to a higher dimension. Once a soul can pass the 5th dimension and reach the 6th, the 7th or higher, it will reincarnate again. But this time it will not come to planet Earth or any other planet. It reaches a different realm in the universe. First of all, there's no such a thing as going back in time, traveling back in time and changing the past. This doesn't exist. This is made up nonsense. We view everything according to light. The reason you see me now is because there's light here. Certain souls that have the ability, they can bring the speed of sound and the speed of light of an event where they can experience them both. But you're talking about very highly evolved spiritual beings. The fastest thing in the universe is the speed of light. But there's only one thing that can surpass the speed of light.
There's going to be a word that Ray uses in Hebrew called tikkun. Tikkun, the translation, if you want to go literally speaking, is something like a rectification. And generally the word tikkun is used in association with reincarnation, why you come back here. And it's this idea of the soul comes back and reincarnates, chooses specific circumstances and conditions to experience throughout its life in a physical body. And generally those conditions are difficult. They're obstacles, they're hardships. It could be living a life of poverty. It could be a relationship with your husband or your wife. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because a lot of people, especially in the religious world, have been taught that tikkun means that there is something broken with you. And that is not true. It's actually the exact opposite. Your tikkun, your rectification, is your single greatest opportunity. It's your soul chose a certain experience to go through, so you actually have the ability to ascend, to reincarnate again in what would be your next step on your process of spiritual evolution. I say that because you may hear the word tikkun in Hebrew or rectification in a negative light from others who are speaking about it. It is not, and it never has been. It's a positive thing, and if we choose to see it as that, we can use it as our greatest opportunity by understanding that these hardships are actually coming to teach us something, to help us grow and to help us expand.
Most of us here on Earth, we reside between the 1st and the 3rd dimension.
Can you explain the different dimensions before going into that?
Dimensions are levels of spirituality that we bring with us on Earth, and our mission is to evolve and elevate ourselves to a higher dimension. The highest dimension is the 10th dimension, that's where the source resides. God resides. Call it whatever you like. And unfortunately, most humans reside in the 2nd dimension. Now every dimension, by the way, is divided to 10 sections. So you have 10 in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and so on. That means a total of 100 steps to reach the elite of the elite, which is the 10th dimension. Then once you get to the 10th dimension, that all of us strive to reach, the source has the ability to reach endless dimensions that we don't even know what to call them. Not even a number for it, according to my teachings. Once a soul here on planet Earth reaches the 5th dimension, the 10th level of the 5th dimension, which means the highest level of the 5th dimension. For example, we heard about gamma and theta, and okay, so this is the same thing, but it's a spirit within the spirit, and it's a different way to measure someone's spirituality and abilities. Wait, let me finish. Once a soul can pass the 5th dimension and reach the 6th, the 7th or higher, it will reincarnate again. But this time it will not come to planet Earth or any other planet. It reaches a different realm in the universe. It's a spiritual form of life. If you can understand what I'm trying to say, I know it's complicated.
Not physical.
It's not physical at all. It's spiritual only. And basically that means you're on your way to the top, which is the 10th dimension.
So on one hand, there could be one soul in multiple bodies. On the other hand, there could be multiple souls in one body.
Yes.
Is that a negative thing?
In the spirit world, there is no such a thing as a negative or evil. It doesn't exist. It's something that we made up as humans so we can understand and distinguish between certain entities.
Are you able to have multiple souls in one physical body, or experiencing cohabitating, if you want to call it, in one physical body without, call it like schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder?
It's being perceived as schizophrenia because we don't understand what's going on. And since we don't understand what's going on, we usually take those people when they are young, people usually, and we start giving them drugs. And then you really screw up with their mind and soul, and then they become, in our minds, evil or bad people. But there's a reason for everything that happens. Nothing happens by coincidence. There's a reason why there's 75 souls in one body. Very unusual, I agree, but there's a reason. Again, the source makes everything. And if he decided for this to happen, there's a reason. We don't know the reason, but there's a reason behind it.
For anybody watching who may have a schizophrenic in their family, or what they call schizophrenia, what would your recommendation or advice be on how to deal with something like that, knowing what you know?
Look, I don't know. I'm not a professional in the field. I don't think it's my place to give a recommendation.
Understood. I want to shift over to the next topic over here, supernatural abilities, higher powers, explaining how that works specifically through certain experiences that you've had and with TLS as an organization. So I understand that things like levitation, shape-shifting, telepathic communication, telekinetic movement, all these things that many people call supernatural are used in many cases to execute certain operations on the side of TLS. From many conversations that we've had and a lot of things that you've shared in this disclosure series as well. My first question for you is, when TLS chooses certain individuals to be a part of the organization, are they individuals who already have these abilities and have accessed these abilities, or do they bring them in and teach them?
In most cases, they bring them in and they teach them. It's a learning process, a teaching process in most cases.
So if the individual hasn't already accessed the ability to do certain things, why would they choose one over the other?
Their energy, their frequency, their dimension. It's a combination of things.
When they actually bring that individual in, whether it's you, if you want to speak on that experience, or just vaguely big picture, what kinds of things would TLS do to teach an individual and help them access?
There is a teacher that spends time with you and teaches you. If it's an out-of-body experience, they do it over and over and over again and give you the technique of how to do it until you get it right. It doesn't happen in one day. It's a process. So there's a faster process, and there's a shorter process. Let's assume you have to teach somebody certain information for him to have in his brain. You could download information to someone's brain, without a computer, of course. And you could. Information that would take me years to comprehend could be done in 24 to 48 hours.
Through a download.
Through a download. They call it a download. Then once the mission is over and this download is no longer necessary for you to have, it could be unloaded.
That's interesting.
So if you did something wrong and they decided this information is not in the right hands, they could unload it.
Are drugs or any plant medicine ever used in regards to TLS and developing certain abilities?
No, only for protection. For example, if you have to travel through space, this is a big task on your body. The body cannot handle it normally. So they might have to give you certain herbs to drink in order for you not to get hurt during the travel.
Are they herbs that give you an effect that, let's say, psilocybin or ayahuasca would give you?
No, they taste really bad. And in most cases, they might get you tired for the first time. But no, not something. No, not things like that.
Have you ever seen TLS advocate for anything like psilocybin, mushrooms, which is psilocybin, ayahuasca, or anything of that nature?
Not to my knowledge, no. Drugs in general are prohibited.
Well, you can call them drugs, you can call them plant medicine. A lot of the viewers would call them plant medicine.
Obviously, if someone is sick and certain plants will be proper for this person, yeah, they'll give it whenever it's necessary. But what's in them? I don't know. I know I was given concoctions and I was drinking them. Sometimes I drink it for a month at a time. 2 months at a time. It makes you nauseous. At first I was really sick. I was very nauseous all the time.
You mentioned that TLS would strip one of their ability that they help them access in the first place in certain situations. Why? In what situation would that ever happen?
Either you're retired and you're no longer with the organization. Either you took certain abilities and you did certain things without permission. So they would downgrade you, basically. That's what it's called.
Has it ever happened to you?
Yes.
Can you elaborate?
No.
Please.
What do you want to know? I screwed up. I was punished. It's very simple.
Okay, but share. It's interesting.
I can't share.
You could. You don't want to.
I can't share this. On video? No.
Is that not even one?
I give you a few things in private. I'm not going to do it on video.
About certain abilities that were stripped away.
Yeah, you want to know why? I'm not going to tell you why on video. Not going to happen.
You did something you shouldn't have done.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. So in that situation, that's when they take it away.
Yes.
How do they do it? Is it like the erasing of memory? How do they go about it?
Something like that, yes.
Can you explain further?
Usually it's done without machines. It's done with the hands of somebody superior, like the rabbi. He has the ability to download or unload information.
Speaking about the rabbi, I know that there are some very old individuals that are a part of TLS, physically old, hundreds of years old, call them like the elders. How is it that they live so long? 400, 500, 600 years? Can you speak more about that lifestyle?
They eat very little. They are vegans. They don't touch any chemicals. All the food is organic. Otherwise, they don't touch it. They are spiritually elevated. They're always happy. They make sure they're happy. That's part of their mission, to stay happy. Anger is the worst thing for your body. Rarely will you see them getting upset. They always stay cool and calm and very highly evolved spiritual beings. So yeah, they can live for a very long time, if not forever.
First and foremost, there's a paradox in science. They call it the grandfather paradox, which pretty much states that if I were to theoretically or hypothetically travel back in time to when my grandfather was a kid, before I was born, and kill him, what would happen to me? I bring that up right now because there's some really interesting stuff that you've shared that make a lot of sense regarding time, how it really works. And when we have the awareness of that, it clears a lot of things up. So can you speak on the idea of time, what it is, and if time travel is possible, can you go to the past? Can you go to the future? What does it mean and how?
First of all, there's no such a thing as going back in time, traveling back in time and changing the past. This doesn't exist. This is made up nonsense. We view everything according to light. The reason you see me now is because there's light here. The video is not capturing me, it's capturing the light. If you want to travel in time and see the past, it's possible. Let's take an event in history. Let's take the inauguration of President Reagan, okay? It happened roughly 40 years ago. The event happened. It was captured on video. People were there. The entire world saw it. The event is over, but the energy, which is the light, moves on. Energy, which is the light. Light moves at the speed of light, which is 300,000 kilometers per second. So in 40 years, it's pretty far away. Imagine now that I have a train that travels double the speed, 600,000 kilometers per second. Maybe it will take me 20 years to reach it, because I have to catch up to it. but I have to travel at this speed for a long time. But eventually I will catch up to the energy, to this light, and I'll be able to see the event, because the event will always be there. The light will always be there. It never dissipates. It travels, but it's always there. Once you reach the light, you see the event. You can experience the event. You can be in the event. However, you're not going to hear anything. Why? Because the speed of sound is only 1 kilometer per almost 3 seconds. More or less, I'm giving you a number, okay? So therefore, when you catch up to the energy of the light, you will see the light. But you're not going to catch up because the energy of the sun is totally somewhere else because of the distance. You're going to experience in your eyes, not in your ears.
So that means that you can technically see the past, which also is technically happening in the present, because you're traveling there and experiencing it in your present, which means that every single past experience or reality is still somewhere, including the Exodus in Egypt, let's say. It's happening. Technically, let's say that was about 3,000 years ago. So hypothetically, if I was able to travel fast enough and take a telescope and look at Earth from 3,000 light years away, then I would see what was happening in ancient Egypt.
Correct.
But I wouldn't hear it because the sound is somewhere else.
Correct. Obviously, there's no such a train that can go that fast. And according to the scientists, the fastest thing in the universe is the speed of light. But there's only one thing that can surpass the speed of light. It's the soul of a human being. You can travel at the speed of light, okay? With your soul to experience the past. That means if you experience the past, there's no past. Past, present, and future are all in the same moment. That's why you hear people, spiritual people, talking about the moment. We are in the moment. Everything that happened will happen and already happened. And whatever will happen in the future already happened. It just recycles. Do you understand my point?
Yes.
So it's all about light. The light is the source. The light is God. The light is energy. That's what connects all of us as one.
The question is, I understand the illusion of the past and how to access that in the present through what you're calling the speed of thought, or the power of thought, which is faster than the speed of light, the only thing that's faster than the speed of light. The question is when it comes to this idea of the future, if you can access even the illusion of what we call the future, my problem with that is it takes away the freedom of choice, because now you would be saying that it's predetermined.
You cannot travel to the future. You can experience the past. What already happened, you cannot change it. The future could be changed at any given moment according to the soul, or to the souls involved. If a soul decided to go left instead of right, it's the decision of the soul, and you cannot change it. Only the soul can change it. So therefore, if you go into the future and you come back and say, oh, I saw the soul making a right, it cannot happen. There's no such a thing. You cannot see something that did not happen yet. You can see something that already happened.
So that's where free will comes in, where we can make whatever choice we want and then experience everything accordingly.
Exactly. No free will, there will be no life. The same way if there's no sun, there will be no life. Every planet has a sun. Some type of sun. Some type of light. Everything works on light. There will be no light. There will be no universe, no planet Earth, nothing. God will not exist without the light, because He is the light. Now you got it?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me summarize real quick before going to the next topic. Big picture over here. And by the way, I encourage you guys to watch this portion over again because it's interesting. Past, present, and future exist in the same moment. To access the past, you can do so technically by traveling faster than the speed of light, but you can only observe it, you can't influence it, meaning the grandfather paradox is a falsehood to begin with because it's working on principles that we don't even understand, scientifically speaking. Once you observe it in the past, which is in your present, you can observe, you can't influence, and you also can't hear, because the speed of sound travels differently than the speed of light, and therefore the sound is in a different place than the light is. We got the big picture?
Yes, just one correction. Certain souls that have the ability, they can bring the speed of sound and the speed of light of an event where they can experience them both. But you're talking about very highly evolved spiritual beings.
You and I have had a lot of experiences together. You've shown me a lot. You've taught me a lot. We've experienced a lot of things together. So I have a lot of reason to believe you also because of my experiences with you. But there are tons of people around the world watching these conversations with a lot of crazy things that are being said. How do they know what you're saying is true? And I'll take it one step further. There are some people that say, oh no, this is all a game and Jason is Ray and Ray is Jason. What would your response to something like that be?
So what are they saying? They're saying that you're interviewing yourself? That's what they're saying?
Pretty much. Not many, but it's there.
Well, you could always say everything is fake if you want to say it's fake. But let's try to be more logical. Number one, why would I do this interview? Let's assume I'm real, okay? And it's not you. Why would I do this interview, or any interview? I have nothing to gain, only to lose. I'm not getting paid for it. There's no fame. I have to hide my identity, which I'm doing to protect my family. I see it as a dangerous move in a way, but I do it anyway. And let's assume that you're lying, and Ray is you. How could you be Ray when the original papers were written in Hebrew, which you cannot read or write? Maybe you're a little bit better today, but you couldn't read or write. Definitely not this level of Hebrew. So even if you are lying, there's got to be somebody else working with you, giving you the information, so you couldn't be Ray. Whoever wrote it is Ray, so nothing makes sense. It's illogical. I would not even pay attention to those arguments. But no matter what you're going to do, there's always going to be somebody out there trying to show that you are a con artist. But that's their problem.
That's something that you prepared me for, and I knew that that was a part of this work anyways. But again, let's assume you are real. How do we know what you're saying is true on the level of the public?
I made to you and to a few others certain predictions regarding crazy events that happened over the past 2 or 3 years.
There's one thing that I want to bring up that I think is important to ask at this point regarding some of the comments that people made about something that you said specifically, I think, in our first interview together. It was an interview focused more on extraterrestrial life and your experiences with different extraterrestrial races, I would call them. I know you don't like to call them races because you see them as one and they see them as one. But for practical purposes, I'm calling them extraterrestrial races. When I asked you how many different races do you have experience with, your answer was about 5 or 6. And there were a lot of comments saying, well, what do you mean? Is it 5? Is it 6? Somebody that actually had experience with extraterrestrial races and extraterrestrials would probably remember if it was 5 or 6. How do you explain your answer to that?
I have many repeated experiences. It's just a way of expression. I have to think and count exactly how many races. I don't call them races. I would call them entities. Different entities. So I just answered you. It just came out. 5 or 6 or whatever. If you want me to count and tell you, it could be 7. It's more than one experience per race. So it's hard to answer exactly at that moment when you ask me. So I said about 5 or 6.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. I want to go big picture the past 2.5 years. We've spoken a lot about your experiences. You've shared a lot about your experiences. Underground tunnels, high technology, extraterrestrial life, some of the operations you were a part of, stopping induced man-made natural disasters, so-called, all these things. How has your most recent few months have been? I mean, you and I haven't sat down in this form of like interview conversation style on camera for about half a year at this point. What's been going on in your life? What are any updates that you can give us? What's going on in the world that you can share today from your perspective behind the scenes?
Well, it was a very busy year, really stressful year, both in my regular business and around TLS.
I know from our conversations, you've been extremely stressed out. There are some times you even speak about quitting. You don't like the way certain things are going. And then a day later, you can say, you know what, I had a conversation with D, for example, and you may have had a change of heart. So I see a lot of back and forth in terms of the way you see things, both hopeful and then without hope whatsoever. Where are you right now in terms of your stance with what's going on in your work with TLS specifically?
Well, I am. I am thinking or contemplating quitting both my business, meaning retire or semi-retire, and quitting TLS. I didn't make a decision yet, but yeah, I am thinking about it for many personal reasons. And as you know, I'm not exactly agreeing with the way things are being done in TLS. I'm a one-man operation. They are more of a teamwork, which I understand, and it's a good way of doing things. But anything that has the slightest of violence in it, they will not do, in most cases. I believe it's wrong. I believe you have to answer violence with violence, and I believe that you have to use violence whenever it's necessary to protect whoever you need to protect. You asked me many times about the Holocaust. In my view, we are already in the process. A new process of a Holocaust. Maybe we're in the beginning stages. But if things are not going to be, if someone is not going to stop the madness that's going on and the crimes against humanity that are going on, we're not going to a good place.
I don't want to send a message to everybody that we're doomed, because there's a lot of good things going on as well. So you're saying if somebody isn't going to do it, I understand that part of the job of the organization is to do whatever they can to stop it. And I also understand that there are some laws that they can't infringe upon, like free will and interference and things like that. So I know that you have your own perspective, and I know that you happen to be a pessimist. But let's do our best to keep the energy high also, because there's a lot of good things happening here.
I'm not a pessimist. I'm just being real. Big difference. I'm not saying that good things are not happening. A lot of good. More good things are happening than the bad things, but some of the bad things are really pretty bad, and somebody needs to do something. It's not being done.
Are they not doing anything?
I didn't say that. I said they're doing a lot of work, and a lot of things are being changed, stopped, and manipulated. But to my opinion, it's not enough.
Can you give some examples of what is being done? Let's focus on that for a second. Again, I know that you've been semi-involved and not involved in certain things. I know you've been given jobs that you said no to over the past few months for your own personal reasons. What can you share that you know that's going on the level of TLS right now, economically speaking, whatever it may be?
They do the same thing they've been doing for many, many years. Everybody has their own missions and tasks that they have to function with and to respond to reactions regarding certain problems. This year, I've been doing something different than I usually do. You know, I used to do the tunnels, as you know, and a lot of flying all over the world, and it was more of a physical, spiritual work at the same time. Today, I'm more into, let's say, a financial type of mission.
Can you elaborate on what that means?
Let me try, but it's not going to be easy to explain. I can't say too much about it, but what I can tell you is that I'm trying to create certain humanitarian work, a project, or projects, in order to help others, especially those in need. When I say financial, I mean collecting money in certain ways in order to not only provide for others, but in order for me and those working with me on the project will be able to continue this legacy when I'm gone. And in order to, through this power of money, because everything works on money today, as you know, is to take down certain targets in a manner that is not violent. So it would be okay with TLS.
The operation that you're talking about, is this something that TLS tasked you with, or did you decide to do something on your own?
No, it's my project. It's my idea. But I did get permission from TLS to do it.
Did you have any resistance from them when you brought this up?
I would not use the word resistance. I would use the word reluctance.
How long have you been working on this project that you're talking about?
This past year. It's probably going to take another year or two to complete. It's either I succeed or I will not succeed. There's nothing in between.
Is it dangerous?
Every day of my life is dangerous. There's a danger there. Everything is dangerous. Me sitting here with you and providing this interview, this discussion, it's dangerous. Not only for me, but also for you. I told you this, and I warned you, because you have a lot of sick people out there. And certain people, the elite, the psychopaths. They don't like people like me and you. We bring awareness to the world, trying to wake up people. People are waking up. We bring a different point of view into this game, and they don't like it.
You mentioned, and I still want to speak about this operation to learn a little bit more of whatever you can share. You mentioned something having to do with collecting money. Is it collecting money? What are you doing exactly? Are you raising money? Are you taking donations? What are you talking about?
No donations. Let's say I'm trying to grab money from the evildoers and provide it to the needy.
I understand. So you're moving money from the dark pockets and the evil people, like you said, to the masses and the people.
To the needy people, yes.
Needy, health, what are you talking about?
Health, clothing, food, everything.
Got you. What do you know when it comes to this whole thing that a lot of people are speaking about, QFS, the quantum financial system, Nasara, Jasara? Do you know anything relating to that? Any reality behind that? How real is it and what's going on?
QFS is very real. It's already in motion. You can check with your banker. He will tell you. Or maybe not your banker, but his boss. But it's already in motion. Nasara Gasara is a different story. I'm hoping things will be stopped. Predictions were made by many people that before this past election, chaos is going to come. Well, chaos is here, but not the way we think chaos is. So in my view, nothing really happened. Unfortunately, again, in my view, it's all going to continue. Corruption is going to continue. This facade about Republicans and Democrats is going to continue. And people are going to continue to watch CNN and Fox News and think they know everything. And the game will continue. The circus will continue.
How do you see that changing? I mean, Democrat, Republican, the circus that you're calling a circus, where does it end exactly? What needs to happen? Again, we hear a lot of things. We hear all these things regarding elections right before. They're not going to happen. They happened. We hear the emergency broadcast system is going to broadcast mass arrests happening around the world. I never spoke about that because anytime I asked you and anybody else that I trust, you guys said, it's not true. We would know about it. That's not happening. So I stay away from that. But there are a lot of people that are doing a lot of great work in this world that speak about that. And it still hasn't happened. Is it bound to happen in the future? Where do you see this change occurring? You always say that something big is going to happen that's going to change everything overnight. Does it have to do with things like that? Or are we talking about a different event here?
Financially, we are heading up to a major, major disaster.
All I'm hearing here is darkness. Where is the light at the end of the tunnel?
There is always a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not one of those people who like to wait for the light at the end of the tunnel. I like to get to the light in the beginning of the tunnel. That's the difference.
But that's not realistic. You said you're a realist.
So again, will things change? Yes. Whatever goes down will come up. Whatever goes up will come down. That's the way life is. We're just living in times where things are getting out of hand, more than usual. And instead of people going out and revolting, they're basically going into their home and they're waiting for Jesus to show up. Well, he's not going to show up unless you're going to do something about it. And unless the psychopaths, the elite, those who control the system, will not be taken out, they're not going to let go. They have no reason to let go. So you could do all the elections you want. They're all fraud anyway, on both sides. You could do whatever you want. Nothing is going to happen unless the big boys are going to collapse.
But again, what is the job of TLS and why do you think that they're not doing what you think needs to be done?
Because their belief system is humanity has to go through certain processes throughout life. You can interfere in certain ways, in certain conditions, but the general process got to go through.
Out-of-body experiences.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice, suggestions, direction for people who are interested in developing that within themselves? We all have the ability to do it. Where does somebody have to look in order to begin developing that power within them?
You can't do it on your own. You need to find somebody to guide you. And that's not easy. Usually it comes not by you looking for somebody, but if somebody is approaching you on a need-to-know basis, for an agenda, for a reason, for information.
Okay, but I had a different experience.
What experience did you have?
I read a book
Yes.
3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was called Out of Body Experience, but I don't remember the name. I actually have it in my apartment somewhere. And I read it, and I was telling you that I was reading it. Before I told you that I was reading it, I was practicing the techniques that it was putting me through. I was in Vietnam when I was reading it, by the way, on a trip. And I succeeded once. I succeeded. I felt like the whole vibration there was like a period of time where I felt like there was a separation. I got scared and then came back, and I didn't do it again. Then I called you, and I told you about my experience, and I told you what I was doing, and you were upset with me. And you said, you don't do that. You need the proper guide. Don't do that again. Then about a year ago, we spoke about it again, and your answer was different. You said you're at a different place today. Go and read the book, do what you got to do, and see what you can achieve. Those were your words. That means that you don't need somebody to come and teach you, but you can teach yourself with the proper guidance, even from a book.
Well, it's a start, but it's a start at a certain time in your life. But I will guarantee you that will not happen only from the book. You can learn all you want. It's not going to help you.
A lot of people want to and crave to learn more about how to tap into their essence, how to tap into their healing abilities, how to tap into their supernatural abilities, how to do things like, again, out-of-body experience, telepathic communication. There's a lot of people that are starting to trend over the internet. I don't know how much of it is real, but I'm sure some of it is, that are showing you that they can actually move things through the movement of energy without actually touching it. And you see they're sweating. It's a lot of work to actually do something like that. My question for you is, there's a lot happening right now with changes spiritually in the collective. What do you think people can do right now to tap into all of that and tap into their potential? Meaning, if somebody has the potential of gamma right now, but they're operating in beta or alpha, how can they move to those higher states without necessarily having a teacher that's going to go and find them?
You have to start with meditation. There are certain levels of meditation. It's a long process, but you need somebody who can teach you. Meditation is the key to an out-of-body experience. You can't do that without learning meditation first, unless somebody will do it for you. So meditation is, I would suggest, for everyone who's interested, meditate at the same time. Live a clean life, spiritually, physically clean life, and the divine will take you there. I promise you. Just a matter of time. And we are going in the right direction. I'm not saying we're not. We are going. I feel it's too slow, and I'm a person with no patience. I want to see results right away, and I believe results could be seen much faster. But I don't make the rules.
What do you believe needs to be done in order to bring those results quicker? Not from you or TLS, but from us as the people. What do you think we can do to bring those results a whole lot quicker?
Unite and demonstrate. Stop watching TV. Stop wasting your mind. You have to unite and demonstrate. Go outside and demonstrate. Voting is not enough because voting hardly exists. They are controlling everything. We need to go outside and demonstrate. Unfortunately, those people have a lot of power, and they can do a lot of damage to a lot of people. And the average person is scared, you know? He has a wife. He has a kid. He has to provide. He has to earn money. They keep you busy. They keep you in debt. They keep you working 3 jobs a day. So this way you don't have time to think about the real facts, the real situation. And yeah, I know I'm asking too much from the average guy, but we do not have a choice. Because we are enslaved already. The process now is to enslave us even more, and Agenda 2030, which I'm sure you heard of, is very real. They are so arrogant. They wrote about it, and they're not even hiding it. So it is real. As Agenda 2021 was real, they talked about it. They were divided. They planned it, and it happened. And when it happened, Everybody was so surprised, and they believed. Why are we in a pandemic? Now 2030 is around the corner. If we're not going to wake up, it's going to be huge, huge changes. It's not going to be pretty. Not at all. That's it. But I am emphasizing we are moving toward the light. What I'm asking, let's do it faster.
It's a great honor and privilege to be able to be sitting here with another incredible human being, a woman in this case, from TLS, from the organization itself. Although her real name cannot be revealed, all TLS agents do have code names, and hers is the Black Widow. All I can tell you is that she lives in the United States. She's a mother, and she does absolutely incredible work behind the scenes for TLS and with TLS. So with that being said, I want to thank you for being here and thank you for agreeing to this interview and thank you for giving us your time.
Of course, my pleasure.
I want to start by asking you, first and foremost, why did you agree to doing this interview?
Well, I'm not really a big talker. I am usually working behind the scenes, but as a TLS member, I've been following your work. I think you're doing a great job, especially in the last few years. And I wanted to show you my support because you asked so nicely, and I agreed to this interview just because I'm very proud of you. I think you're doing an amazing job, and I want to be a part of your success.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you have to get any permission or approval in order to be sitting here in the first place?
Oh, absolutely. Everything I do, I have to get permission from Ray, from the boss above Ray. And to be a part of something like this that I'm disclosing on your platform, I have to get approved for something like this. I cannot just do it, like to decide myself that I want to do it.
When you say the boss above Ray, who are we speaking about?
We're talking about the head of the New York chapter of the TLS organization. We call her D, but I can't give her full name.
D like the letter D.
Yes.
I understand that Ray has covered up his identity for privacy concerns, security concerns, out of his own choice, really, because we both know that he doesn't have to. But what's your reason for choosing to cover your identity?
Well, first of all, I have a family. I'm a mother. I have kids, and I have to protect my kids. They're still young. I have to protect my family, the organization, Ray, of course. I cannot expose myself. Ray has a choice. He can expose himself. But for me, it's not a choice. I cannot, and I'm not allowed to expose myself.
Do you know why?
No, actually, I don't. But I'm assuming because my kids are very young and I don't think they could handle something like this. Not yet. So I think it's just basically to protect my family.
How long have you been working with TLS?
I would say a little bit more than 10 years.
Can you tell us around when and how you were approached?
Yes. Actually, it started maybe a little more than 10 years ago. It was a very regular routine for me. I was sitting in my house watching the news, and I saw a story on the news about a woman and her family who needed help. So I decided to approach her husband and her family to help her. And I helped them for a month. And after about a month, Ray, who was well known in the community, I knew of him, but I didn't know him. He approached me and he started talking to me about this woman that I was helping. And a few months after, when I was sitting with myself, I realized that that was basically my first mission without even knowing. I was just sitting at home watching the news and I saw this story and I decided to help her. But I didn't even know that it would lead to something totally different. So, like I said, after about a month that I was helping her, he approached me and he started talking to me about about her, and I was really surprised. And we both helped her together. And I think that this was, I know this was our first mission together to help this woman. And we succeeded. And I'm really glad we did. But we worked really well together. And it was like kind of a test, maybe without me even knowing that this was the test to see how we work together. It was really amazing.
Did you know who Ray was when he approached you?
I knew of him. I didn't know him personally, but I heard about him because he's a very well-known person in the community. He helps a lot of people. And I heard about people that he had helped, but I never met him personally before that. It was more or less 10, 11 years ago, something like that.
Now, today, over the past 10, 11 years, up until today, what type of work do you do for the organization?
I started to do physical work in the beginning because I had a few issues that I had to resolve within myself. And then after a lot of work and help, I got to a point where I could also do spiritual work because it's all connected. Like, you can't be in a low or complicated place in your life if you want to do spiritual work and you want to be, you need to be more clean in your mind and in your soul. And then to connect to yourself and do spiritual work. And now I'm doing both physical and spiritual work together. But I started only with physical work.
Did you receive help from the organization to go through this process of healing, inner healing, and opening yourself up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I did. I got all the help I needed. There were issues that I had to solve, most of it by myself, but I got a lot of support from Ray and a lot of support from TLS. And I'm glad to say that it was a big success. And after like a year or two, I was in a totally different place.
You mentioned you have kids, you have a family. The next question is, do you get paid for your work?
I actually do. I'm different than Ray because Ray has another source of income and I don't. My kids are still young. I have to support them. I have to support my family and TLS. Basically, the work with TLS takes a really big part of my day, and I'm getting paid to support my kids and my family.
Does your work ever require you to have to travel to different countries, different states?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on some examples?
I travel, let's say, 3 to 5 times a year. It's a short period of time, like a few days, sometimes in the United States, sometimes out of the United States.
It must be very hard. I mean, having to be a mother to children, raising a family. Does your family know what you really do?
Well, my family doesn't know what I do, but it's not harder than any other moms I know. We live in a very small community and we're a very nice neighborhood. And all the moms surrounding me are working moms. And I'm not different from them. But sometimes it's challenging a little bit, but something that is totally doable.
Your kids don't know what you really do.
No.
What do they think you do?
I prefer not to answer that. That's my cover, basically, and I prefer not to answer and not to give away my cover.
So there is something that they think you do in terms of your day-to-day job, and you just do something else.
Yeah, it's like any other mom who goes to work 9 to 5. But they think I do one thing and I'm doing something else.
Did you ever have to relocate for work purposes?
Yeah. Yes, I have. But when I did the relocation with my family, TLS and Ray completely supported me. They helped me in every way that I needed. My kids now have a great neighborhood, great schools, and I got all the support that I needed when I was relocated.
I want to ask you a question about a date that I've been speaking about very publicly over the past 1.5 to 2 years. The day that I was actually kind of formally invited to, I guess we can call it a TLS meeting. It lasted about 12 hours on February 6th of 2020. A meeting that kind of marked the date that I was somewhat informally brought into the organization, because I'm not an initiated member whatsoever. My question for you is, did you have any part in the decision-making process of making that meeting happen and bringing me into it?
Yes, the answer is yes. I was, as I said at the beginning, as a part of TLS, I was following all your work and everything you did and your progress. And I absolutely supported the fact that you were going to be there and that you were going to be in the meeting and be a part of it and start a process.
So before February 6th of 2020, I didn't really have any form of a public platform. Is it safe to say that you or others, or you and others, were sort of following me and watching me in my day-to-day?
Absolutely. The answer is yes.
Is it safe to assume that you knew about me before I knew about you?
Yes.
Are we talking days, weeks, months, years?
We're talking years, but I don't really want to get into it. But it was years that we've been following you and known about you.
Before moving on, I have one last question about that. At that point, I was, like 22 years old? What made you have any form of faith in me, somebody that comes from a real estate background, somebody that has no experience with public speaking? Why did you choose to support pretty much a kid coming out and speaking out about such a powerful organization?
Well, it's not really about the age or what you do for a living. It's something more about your energy, your soul. And it has nothing to do with your age. And you personally today you are 25 years old, but you're not 25 years old. You're much more mature than that. You have experience. You're a great speaker. And the fact that you came from real estate, it's not an issue. It's like something that was in your energy, your soul, and the hope that you had and the future that you saw for a better world.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Let's move on to your relationship with Ray, because I think a lot of people would like to know how you and Ray kind of work together. Ray has shared a lot of his own experiences from within the organization, but to get those experiences, or whichever experiences you did share from your perspective, would be really interesting. So first and foremost, who is Ray to you within the organization?
Ray is sort of my boss, you could call it. There's a boss above Ray, of course, but he's more my direct handler, you could say. I take all direction and everything for the work that we have from him, directly from him.
Do you know him only through work, or are you on a more personal level with him?
Absolutely. On a personal level today, and the last few years, we became like partners, good friends, and like you can say family.
Do you know his family?
I do. I know his family. I know his whole family.
Does his family know you?
They know me, but they don't know what I do.
So you're undercover even within the relationship with him, known to his family?
Yes. The only person who knows who I am and what I do is his wife.
Why did the two of you work together?
That's a good question. I think we spoke about the first mission that I had, and I didn't know it was a mission. I just saw a story and wanted to help. I think that it was kind of a test to test if we could work together. Like our energy, both our energies worked really, really well together. Think about yourself like on a daily basis. You go, you meet someone. Sometimes you get a good connection after 2 seconds. And sometimes you dislike them. And it's all about energies. You know, you can work with someone when your energy is perfectly flowing together. And some people, you have it with them for no specific reason. And some people you don't. So me and Ray, we work very, very good together. And it was like a perfect match with our energy. We think the same. We act the same. We can do stuff together without even saying it out loud. We just do it together. And it worked perfectly for both of us.
Are there ever any instances where you have to work with anybody else within the organization?
No.
Could it be a group effort where it's you, Ray, and other individuals?
Absolutely. In fact, most of the time that we go to missions and trips, we're not alone. Sometimes we have a short period of time that we have to do things together and it's only us. But all of our trips, we're surrounded with more people from TLS for backup, for other things too. But most of the time, we're with other people.
Now, when you say with other people, are we talking about 5 people, 10 people, 100 people? How big can this get?
Well, it depends. Sometimes it's like 4 people. Sometimes it's 30. It depends on the mission and the task that we have.
Speaking about missions and operations, Ray has shared a lot of details about operations and missions that he was a part of regarding TLS, regarding the underground tunnel systems, regarding induced natural disasters, all these things that he was a part of in many ways stopping. Were you a part of any of those specific operations with the underground tunnel system or induced natural disasters?
Well, as a mom, the operation with the tunnels and saving the kids was something that I really, really, really wanted to do. But Ray would not even consider for me to come because he had a responsibility to my kids, for my family. And as much as I offered to join the operation, he said absolutely not. He wouldn't take the chance. So you have to understand that in every task in TLS, there's a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is the lowest risk and 10 is the highest risk. And I can tell you that Ray, he takes a lot of risks that are like on the higher levels, but he never lets me do it. Never. The highest level I ever joined him on was, I can say a 3 or a 4. That was the highest level. The tunnels was something I really wanted to do, but I wasn't a part of it.
And what about when it came to the so-called natural disasters?
Well, some of them Ray did that by himself, and some of them I was part of it. More on the spiritual level, which I didn't have to physically be in the actual place to help and make the change.
That means that spiritually speaking, you're doing something without actually being there.
Exactly.
Earlier, you said you work in both the physical side of the organization and the spiritual side of the organization, something that you kind of have gone between over the past 10, 11 years of your work within the organization. What do you predominantly do today? Is it more physically oriented or spiritually oriented?
I would say it's 50% physical and 50% spiritual.
Can you give any examples of jobs, tasks, operations that you've been on, maybe in different countries, that you've done that show both the physical side and the spiritual side? Let's start with the physical side, and then we'll go into the spiritual.
Well, the physical side, I would say to distract someone. I'll give you an example. We spoke about the movie that you actually brought to my attention, The Adjustment Bureau. There was an actor, Harry. He was supposed to spill coffee on David's shirt at exactly 7:05 a.m. to make a chain of reactions to change something in his day. So this is something that I would do. It's something that I actually do. TLS will send me, they'll fly me out to a different country for 5 minutes to distract someone and then come back.
When you say for 5 minutes, you're saying that they'll fly you all the way to God knows where, a different country, to do a job for 5 minutes and come back.
Yes, that happens.
Why you and not just hire or use one of their 8,500 agents that are in that area of the world?
I guess it's something that is connected to your energy, to your look. You know, think about yourself sitting in a restaurant and suddenly you hear like a glass falling on the floor and breaking. You'll turn around and sometimes you will, for a split second, be distracted. You'll look and then you'll go back to your meal. So sometimes something will, distract you more and make you look for a few more minutes. And this will cause a chain of reactions, different than what was actually going to happen. You have to remember that everything that we do is for a good reason. We don't do stuff like that to make a bad reaction, a bad chain reaction, only for good.
You mentioned the movie that I told you to watch. It's actually one of my favorite movies, The Adjustment Bureau. Would you say that TLS works in somewhat of the same way as the Adjustment Bureau organization works in that movie?
Absolutely. When you told me that you watched this movie and then I watched it also, it was very similar to the things that we do in TLS. So it made me understand that you understand the essence of the work TLS is doing.
Can you give some other examples now on the spiritual side of operations, tasks, jobs that you've done around the world that shows a spiritual task that you had to take upon yourself?
A perfect example is a few years ago. TLS sent us to Canada to, you won't believe it, to stop the electricity for a few seconds.
What part of Canada are we talking about?
It was Niagara Falls.
And when you say to stop the electricity, you're using this example as a spiritual task. How did you go about doing something like that?
Well, we actually used a physical tool, but in a spiritual way.
Can you elaborate?
I prefer not to.
In short, you have access to tools that you use that help you, like connect spiritually?
Yes.
And that spiritual connection allows you to do things like stopping electricity for a certain purpose, for whatever the purpose of that mission was.
Exactly.
Can you give any other examples of spiritual tasks and operations that you've been a part of?
Well, not too many, because you can understand that all the missions, most of them are something that we really don't talk about. But we went to, we've been sent to a country in the Middle East. We had to stop a storm. And it was also something that we did in a spiritual way. We were actually in a helicopter and we were actually in the sky when we did what we did. And we also use a certain physical tool to do something spiritual. So another example, and I'm sorry, I know I'm not giving you too much information, but you have to understand that I'm sitting here and talking to you, but I have to be very careful with what I say because I can't really give too many details. And I'm sorry about that. But it's something that you must understand, and I'm sure you do. So we went to Utah also a few years ago. We had a mission over there, and we actually had a mission, but something happened on the way, which was we thought it was something that wasn't the reason that we were there, and it just happened. And there was actually a boy that almost fell from a cliff.
You're talking about Horseshoe Bend.
Yes.
By Utah, Arizona.
Exactly. I know you know the story. We were there for something else. And we thought we did what we did. And then something like just came along and we were there in the right place at the right time. But when the ambulance came and the police came and everyone came, after we helped this kid, we suddenly saw on the plate number a number that we use in TLS. So me and Ray and the person that was with us, we understood this wasn't a coincidence. We were there for a reason. We didn't even know. We didn't plan it, but there was a reason that we were there.
Have you ever experienced any form of, I guess we can call all of this supernatural, but any form of supernatural abilities that happened to you or that you did throughout an operation that you're able to share? Things like, I don't know, telepathic communication, levitation.
Yeah, these things that you're talking about, we don't do those most of the time, but I have a few experiences with levitation. It actually happened when me and Ray were in 2 different countries. We used telepathy and we did it in 2 different countries. And this was on the spiritual level. And this happened only a few years after I met Ray because I needed to be in a different place. Like I said before, I needed to be in a different place spiritually, clean with my soul and the blocks that I had to let go of. And then I was able to do more spiritual things like levitation, telepathy, and stuff like that.
Did you ever get hurt doing or experiencing any of those abilities?
I actually did. We did a levitation and we were in 2 different countries and something went wrong. And I actually fell from the ceiling. I was definitely injured, but not too much. It wasn't that bad. I had like black and blues a little bit. And I told my family that I fell on my way to work, but it wasn't that bad. It was okay. And it was worth it.
It was worth it.
It was worth it.
Good.
Absolutely.
That's all that matters. I understand that everyone in the organization uses code names. You have a code name, Ray has a code name, everybody has a code name. What's the purpose of those names? Do you use those names when you're on an operation to speak to one another?
Well, when we're on an operation, that would be very weird. I mean, think about it. If you go in the street and you hear 2 people calling the Black Widow, or, it would get too much attention. So we don't use them. We use our names. But it's something for the organization that they use at certain times. But personally, we don't use them when we're on a mission. We don't use the code names.
So why do they call you the Black Widow?
That name was given to me.
By who?
By the boss.
Who's the boss?
I told you before. We call her Dee, and she's the head of the New York chapter.
What's Ray's code name?
The CEO.
Can you tell us what it stands for?
No.
Can you give us any other examples of code names within the organization?
We have the Eagle. We have the BA, which stands for Born Again. We have the BB, which stands for Blind Baby.
Why? Where do these names come from?
Well, it's not my decision. I didn't give these names. I just know what it stands for and the code name and which code name goes to who, but I didn't give this name. It's the boss, the one who gave me my name.
I have a few closing questions for you, big picture questions for you that I asked Ray in multiple past interviews, Disclosure Part 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want to ask you the questions to gain a new perspective, a fresh perspective from a different individual from within the organization that still has a lot of experiences that most people don't. So my first question for you is, number one, I think we can both agree that Ray is very impatient. He has certain ways that he wants to go about doing certain things to really stop a lot of the evil in this world. And of course, he comes from a very good place with very good intentions. He does have a very extreme way of doing things. And as he said many times, he wants to eliminate the evildoers. And TLS doesn't allow him to go through with certain things because they don't want their actions or actions from anybody associated with them to interfere with free will of the human collective. So what is your perspective on really getting rid of evil in this world? Do you agree with Ray? Do you have a different way of going about it? What's your overall perspective from your stance?
So, as a person who knows Ray very well, I know that everything he wants to do, and they won't let him, it's all for the better. He has a really good heart. He's an amazing man who helps so many people. And most of the time, people he helps don't even know that he's behind the help they're getting. But I'm a woman, and I'm a little bit different. I'm a mother. I'm a little bit less extreme. And I know there is a solution for us, to make this world a better place to live. Man, it's just going to be a little bit longer. And we need to be more patient. It's going to be more complicated, but we can get there as a human being on Earth. We can get there. So I understand Ray and where he's coming from, but I think we should challenge ourselves and take
high road.
Yep. Not easy, but we can get there.
When it comes to religion, a lot of people ask about religion and how God fits into this greater picture, because Ray has said multiple times that he's against religion, and many members and agents within TLS are not fond of organized religion either. But they do use things like the Bible and Kabbalah and the Zohar to do many, many different things in action in the field throughout their operations. When it comes to religion, organized religion as we know it today, what is your perspective on how it fits into the greater picture, spiritually speaking?
Well, I have to be honest. As a person who read Rays of Light many times, I do understand what the rabbi is saying about religion. Whatever divides us as human beings just cannot be that good. And I'm being very careful with choosing my words because I was raised in a certain way as a kid, and I'm raising my kids in a similar way. And a little less tradition than I was raised in, but it is all connected to a religion. And I see how religion divides us as people. And I do understand that the hope is that one day we are all going to be above all the religions that divide us. And we'll all be more moving and acting out of love